Hey guys, Tim here, back with another episode of our Transport Fever 2 Chicago Northwestern build. And we got a lot of stuff to do this episode, so let's start with a couple things that I did off camera between episodes here. First of all, I paid down the debt a little bit, so we're back down to just our original starting loan that we got. So still a little bit of work down, but you can see, it was almost 200,000 a year in interest. And so just to try and get that off the books, I paid that down. So that's one thing I did. Another thing I did was I had to expand the capacity of our Miramar fuel train. I upped it to 48 because we're getting to the point now where the demand was high enough here in Miramar that it was producing enough fuel back here that we needed to do that. So those were really the main things that I did. Oh, and then I also moved. I slightly repositioned this for reasons that'll become clear later this episode. So we've got a few things we need to do. We started the process of getting ready for our next major freight expansion, which is developing the supply chain so we can get products down, or goods, I should say, goods down to Hartford. So we started that by getting this lumber line here. And we're going to finish that, but the other piece we're going to do is we're going to start to work on a little bit of passenger service. Now we can't do a ton of that yet because if you look, again, our passenger options for buses are pretty abysmal. But we can start to do some intra-city work. So if you look, and here's what I'm saying, it's kind of time to start doing this. So if you look at here, it indicates the number of people moving on a given road. One of the reasons I really want to get some inner-city traffic going is, look at all that. There's 49 moving, 50 moving between the cities already. So, to kind of prime the pump for eventual passenger rail, I want to start at least doing some passenger buses. But you can see that even in town, we're starting to see a little more movement, mainly on the south side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a couple loops of tram, because although our bus options aren't sitting very good, our tram options are looking okay. So I'm going to get our tram track tool. Yeah, we do need to electrify this. Okay, that's good. And that's good. Now I also want to expand out a little bit. In preparation for when we get those products online. Okay. And we're going to do some of this. Just to kind of lay the groundwork for some development here. Okay. And the reason I'm doing this is because eventually, we're going to want to get to the point where we do have intercity bus service, so we need kind of a junction stop here. So I'm going to build that, get this all configured. The reason why I want a couple terminals is because we want one spot for our in-city traffic, and then want one spot for our inter-city traffic. So that way there's a pretty smooth flow. Okay, now, oops, one other thing. Yes, we need tram tracks. Perfect. Okay. Let's make sure everything can handle trams up here. Yep, looking good. Alright, and then I'm going to build just kind of a service road here that is electrified. So that way I can build my tram depot, which is going to be out here. Which is why you didn't see these options when I showed you passengers, because you build it in a different place. See, we're looking way better here. This thing can move almost 30 miles an hour, can hold 21 people. That's way better than our bus options. So we're going to do that first. Let's go ahead and build some bus stops / tram stops here. Build that. Okay. Just a nice 4-stop loop here. Pretty straightforward. Okay. And this is our, we're going to just call this our Hartford South Loop. Give it a nice bright blue color. Perfect. And now we're going to build. So I want to make sure I'm doing this in a way that captures the other stops, because what I want here is, there we go. So for my north loop, I want to be able to link to these south ones. So I want to make sure that those south stations are highlighted. Right, we're going to come up there and do one right there. And that should be good. That should cover it. Okay. Make this one a nice purple. Oh, darn it. Okay. We're going to have to fix that. How did I build this? And I can't just flip the entrances and exits because otherwise it's going to go in the wrong direction. So I built this. Okay. Yeah, we'll have to do it like that. Okay. Unfortunate, but we'll get it corrected. Okay. That should have it fixed. So let's get our one-way completed again. Make sure it's electrified. Same thing here. Much better. Okay. So we've got two nice loops going on. We're just going to start with a single car for each. Because again, we're trying to just build up. I got to name that. It's my bad. I'll fix that. We're just trying to build up initial demand. Right? We're just trying to build up that kind of history of movement. Boom. Done. And eventually we'll need to do the same thing for Miramar, but that'll come later. Okay, the next thing we need to do is we need to, again, our main goal is to get products from here. Or is it products or goods? I always call it the wrong thing. Goods. We need to get goods from here back down to here. We already have one of the base resources ready. That's planks. We need to get the other one ready to go. That's plastics. So I'm going to start by deleting these roads. Because I don't even want to mess with this highway. I don't want a stop sign. I don't want any cross traffic. I don't want anything. So instead, what we're going to do is, we definitely don't need tram tracks here. Okay. I'm going to do that. Do a brief bridge. Give it kind of an old iron rusted look. Perfect. Perfect. So much straighter shot than what we were looking at previously here. Okay. So we definitely only need one platform, for sure. And this is going to be, remember the nice thing about this, so the plan is we're going to actually build our rail line up here, which means that this truck route is going to make money going both ways because it's going to bring the grain down here, pick up the plastic, bring the plastic back, and call it good. So, let's go ahead, get this all lined up. I'm going to add a bunch of cargo because grain is one of those base resources that can pump out pretty darn fast. So, get our entrance and our exit. Perfect. Configure the same thing, whereas here we won't really need to worry about it because basically the second that the plastic gets produced, there will be a truck there to pick it up because it's a constant loop. So we should be okay here. We'll have to build our own road depot for this because it's kind of a closed loop, right? It's not connected to the highway, it's its own thing. So we will, let's fix that. Perfect. Okay, build a road depot here. Don't know why I zoomed out that much, clearly didn't need to. Give us a yellow, and we're going to call this Hartford Grain Plastics. Perfect, okay. And perfect, okay. Let's get ourselves, see now we can't do the dump truck because although it takes grain it doesn't take plastic, so we'll just have to do the base model that holds just 12. That's okay. We're going to build 15 of them. Boom. Now, this is going to start kind of like with the lumber, right? There's a base level demand even though the plastics doesn't have a customer, so we can get this flowing at least. And that's what we need for now. So now we can just focus on building a cargo station. And we're going to do that. It's going to destroy a couple fields, but the fields are actually purely aesthetic. You would think that that would like hurt your farm production somehow, but it doesn't. It's kind of weird, but okay. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to delete this. So I'm going to build my cargo station to track this. I'm going to build it like this. And build a quick road. Sure we're connected. We are. Okay. So the reason I'm building it there, which might seem odd because I'm trying to connect down here, is I also need to connect down here. So it makes sense to kind of have a like an arc forming, but also because, you know, I'm looking at eventually developing the city of Springfield over here and developing the city of Grand Prairie over here, and Grand Prairie also needs goods, and so it makes more sense for this to be an east-west kind of main line that these two branch off from, and also because eventually with passenger service I can run it parallel here. So we're just trying to be mindful of future expansion, because that's one of the things that can really trip you up as you get farther down in this game, is that you didn't think about spacing and placement for future expansion, and then you're really kind of stuck in a bad spot. So I'm not going to worry about signaling or double tracking or anything. This is going to be a single train for a long time, long time. Just because, you know, it's a long run, which will give a lot of time for the goods to produce, which means we can just slap a bunch of box cars on one train. That'll suffice. That'll be okay. The other thing I'm going to do is, and there, that's our bus. So we'll go back and work. That's why I wanted to lay the groundwork, because now we have some decent buses actually to go intercity. So we'll come back to that though. So the other reason why I want to do this first is because that way it'll start storing up plastics, and we will have a nice little reservoir built up. And the reason why that'll happen is because, like here at the sawmill, it's burning through its stored capacity. Well, that's because it only needs one thing, and it has everything that it needs to make goods to like small time hypothetical customers, so it's burning through it. But this can't make anything unless it has plastics plus one more of these goods present. So as long as it only has plastics, it'll just build it up and store it, won't use it. So that's why I want to build that up first over anything else. So I'm just trying to think of a good spot to put the depot. I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. Okay, and then build a line like this. And a line, ooh, okay. There we go. And a line like this. And build a depot right there. That way I can also serve the future line that's going to go back down to Hartford too from this depot. Okay, excellent. So let's go ahead and build that line. Start down here, obviously. Come up here. And we're going to give this a nice purple color. I'm going to call it Hartford Plastics. Okay, now, do I want it to go to the, go on to stick on one. There we go. I like that better. Okay. Now, we still only have the Alco for diesel. This is way too expensive. Just look at that maintenance. No way. So we'll do a 282. We're really close to dieselization. I think 1950 is when dieselization is going to hit. And that's when this will feel, again, much more like a Chicago Northwestern build. But we do have our first Chicago Northwestern specific piece to add, which is Chicago Northwestern boxcars. And we need boxcars to move plastic. So let's go ahead. We're just going to do 3 for now. That's going to take a while to build up to 54. And that's going to cost us a cool $8 million. So let's throw that on there. Just, again, to kind of future-proof, let's put a signal before it merges. Same thing right here. Okay, now we should start to see a little more magic happen. Now, yep. So it's identified that that factory is a customer. Now it's producing. Did any of these pick them up? Okay, that one did. So we're starting to see some actual production. So now, when you see this next wave of guys coming in with grain, you're going to start to see more getting produced. And it's good that this train started all the way up here, because this is going to buy us some time. So hopefully that means that when it comes down here, you know, it's got more than just 2 plastics to send up there. Okay, good deal. So now let's look at the other main leg of this. We're going to have to delete that, so sorry. Kind of the same thing. We can single track this for a while. It's going to take a long time for us to get to the point where this needs to be anything but that. However, I am gonna double track for just a little bit for reasons you'll see in just a second. The reason I'm doing that is because we are gonna have to also make sure that we develop our too much slope. I just built this switch. Okay. Let's try something else then. Let's try a little bit closer. There we go. We can get a little finicky when you try and do those double switches, but we got it. So we need to obviously have a route to deliver products. So in order to do that, do something like this. So the issue here is going to be we need to go over the rail route. We don't want to go, we don't want to have a crossing here. That'd be disastrous because you'd have your trucks getting interrupted all the time. So, that there, oops. Let's line up just a little bit more. So now we need there we go. Okay. Oops. Let's see if we can't curve that down a little bit. Because road vehicles are like trains in that if you have like really wicked curves, that will mess up their speed. So that's about the cleanest way we could have done that, I think, to be honest. Okay. That looks pretty good. That looks pretty good. Now let's switch over to city. We do want to see, a decent amount of long-term growth here. Let's not kid ourselves. We want to see the city balloon in terms of numbers. Okay. I think that looks good. So, now we just got to plan out where the best place to deliver goods is going to be. And I'm thinking right here. That catches pretty much everything. Now I am going to, again, trying to future-proof. This is eventually, the traffic's really going to balloon. You're going to see that in this game, car traffic gets really crazy really fast. So we need to move this up to a 4-lane road, mainly for the bus lanes, because the bus lanes will allow your trucks and buses and trolleys and stuff to bypass that. So we just need to make sure it's going to cost us a pretty penny, but again, it's going to be hugely worth it. And I'm not really that concerned about the streets that are getting destroyed right now because we don't have products to deliver to them just yet. So let's add that route. Make this a dark brown for products, or goods. I'm always going to do that. Just going to have to accept that as reality. So we have that ready to go. And again, as we've talked about in future episodes, or in previous episodes, as I've talked about in previous episodes, you've got to have some trucks on the line to, prime the pump to let the factory know that it's active. So I'm going to park 2 on there. So now we can get going. Okay. Alright, so we're dealing with a decent amount of elevation change, and that's okay. That's not the end of the world. We want this, though, to be, as smooth as possible, because we have one little kind of snag here. And I'll explain it in a second. Once we get this line put in, let's see if we can get this curve. Awesome. Out to the full 75. Even better. And again, for now, that's really irrelevant. We're not going to see those kinds of speeds out of freight for a while. But again, we don't want to harm ourselves 10 years down the road because we weren't staying on top of it. So, let's build a new line. And we're going to build it up to here. Oh yeah, I definitely want to make sure that that's on the other track. Let's do that for now. Okay. There we go. Okay. So Hartford planks goods. We're going to give that the dark brown color. And we will have to do that. There we go. Okay. Alright, so here's our dilemma. And we're going to have to probably borrow a little bit. This one's going to cost us. Okay, so here's the dilemma. Right now, we'll do a 282 for sure. But here's the problem. We got to get planks up to the factory. That takes a flat car with side stakes, right? That's where planks go. But I'm bringing back goods. Those go in boxcars. So this is going to be a long train because we're going to need essentially double the cars. Now, we can start off going heavier on this compared to goods because it's going to take a while for our good production to ramp up. So we'll make sure we get our Chicago Northwestern ones, but we really only need 36 capacity, I think. I think that's gonna do it for us. So let's get it on our way. Now, watch what's going to happen back down here. It should identify... Yep, there it goes. Now it's identified the goods factory as a customer. This one's only going to bring up all of 2, but now it's going to start actually producing something that we can deliver to right here. And that's going to be awesome. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead, our next big thing is going to be, our next big thing should probably be getting a second train on this lumber line here to help with. Because I mean, look at already, we're already way over on, we just have wasted products sitting here on this line. So, that is, we're going to let that sit for a little bit because we have some other work to do. We have got to build up stuff over here. So, this is the reason why it's moved over a little bit. Let's expand that out. So we need to add our passenger service over here because now we've got our buses, so that can be our next project we work on while we wait for these rail routes to start to develop a little revenue. So let's build that up. Let's add to our capacity. So we got to add some routes here. Before we do that, though, let's just go ahead, since we've got this. Let's go ahead and set up our route. Okay, let's make this one, let's go red. I don't think we've done red yet. So we're going to call this Hartford to Miramar. We're going to move this so that way it's not in conflict with the locals. Yep, okay, perfect. Alright, now what we're going to do is I'm going to build a couple buses from that depot, so that way it starts over here on the Hartford side, and then I'm going to build a couple of buses from this side, so that way you don't have like a line of buses all moving the same direction. You want to make sure that there's, you know, some flow to it. Okay, so we've got that sorted, but you know, you're not going to have a lot of traffic yet because this depot only serves this small cluster that's highlighted, right? We got to build a route up here. So before we do that, we're going to have to do the pricey thing, and we're going to have to upgrade these streets. So that's going to cost us, oof, don't even have the money to do that. Wow, there's some valuable buildings right there. Okay. So it's time. It was high time for us to do that anyway. This is kind of the central corridor of Miramar, and so we needed to do. This had to happen because otherwise there's just going to be more and more traffic problems. And honestly, it would start to impact our delivery of services because our trucks would, you know, start to get stuck. We're going to just borrow a little more so we can finish this off here. Our trucks would start to get stuck in that traffic. So I'm going to upgrade this as well because that's where our fuel line is. So we'll take a little bit of a short-term hit, but I'm okay with that. So the other thing is I do want to run light rail or trams, trolleys, you know, whatever you want to call it. So we need to upgrade all of this. Okay, looks like we're good there. I'm going to upgrade our perimeter over here as well. Now let's check and see where most of the traffic is happening. Oops. There we go. Okay. So primarily on the main street, we don't have a lot here yet. Right, most of the folks are, makes sense, it's the smaller of the two towns, there's not a lot of stuff here yet. So let's go ahead and, we'll go ahead and build our 2 loops, just again, try and get out ahead of the demand, have our infrastructure kind of ready to go. How is this working? So they come in this way. They're going to flow down this way, so I want mine to go here. Okay. Then we're going to build another one right there. Build another one right there. Build another one right there. So now we've got let's make this that color so it stands out. Now let's fix this. We want to use that one back there. Okay, good deal. Okay, so this is going to be Miramar, what is this, east? Actually, no, we don't want that color to be that similar. Let's make it more of a purple. Okay, good deal. And then kind of the same thing. We're going to build... The reason I'm building country road, if you see the grasses along that, basically means, you know, they can build city structures. If you don't, then they can't. So I'm doing this just to keep noise levels down, put my depot all the way over here. Okay. So, again, we're going to start with just one for each. Did I forget a step? Aha, I did. Okay. Yeah, it'll yell at you if you can't find a way to get there with electric tracks. It's kind of important. Okay, so let's go ahead and build our other loop real fast and then see how we're doing. Okay, so we're going to build one right there. There's nothing out here yet. This is ridiculously looking into the future, but we're going to do it. And one right there. Okay, so let's build our new line. Let's make this one green. We don't have a green yet. Okay. And again, the reason why I'm doing that is because, you know, I want folks to be able to jump lines, but I found in other playthroughs that if you have two lines being served by the same little bus stop, you'll hit capacity really fast. And so I just don't want to risk that. Okay. So that's up and running. And we're looking good to go. Alright, so we're not going to see a lot of demand yet, but we've got some, right? So what these folks are doing is they're walking over, they're going to go get in line for this. So again, this is largely about starting to kind of build that up. Because we can't just, you can't just like build a passenger line and then expect passengers to show up. You got to have the infrastructure laid out a little bit, and I definitely want to be running passenger lines in this build, so we got to lay the groundwork. So let's look back and see how these lines are going to kind of wrap up this episode. So we've got a good amount of planks waiting for us, and it looks like we've got our initial, it's not much, but our initial thing of goods delivered. Alright, so this is going to pick up a good chunk of them, and it's on its way. We've got how many vehicles? I'm going to go ahead and double these just to get out ahead of it. Because I think if I look back up here, yeah, next time there's going to be a much more decent amount. Now, again, see what I was talking about when I said they'll have a nice little store of plastics, because eventually we'll start running multiple trains down here because we need to get more products down to the city. But we'll be less likely to run multiple of the plastic trains just because one train's going to suffice. So it's just going to help us out. So we're going to wait. We're going to give these routes a chance to build up a little bit, and then we'll see how that impacts the city, and that's where we'll wrap up. Alright, so we're going to wrap up the episode. Things are in really good shape right now. We're starting to see some pretty good utilization in both of our towns of our public transportation. As you can see here, this is got a full trolley going on here in Miramar on one of the routes, which is awesome. You don't have to necessarily rush, to then build another trolley. Sometimes it's good to have a little demand at these locations. But even the inner city route, we've got basically a bus full of people waiting for the next bus to go over to Hartford. But overall, still have a long ways to go. Now, one of the things that we can do next time is, beef up this highway a little bit. make a bridge out of this right here, so that way they're not having to stop, and do a few other things to help with that even more. And just kind of keep an eye on, at what point do we want to expand our infrastructure here? And then the other good news is, over on this front, you can see we've got a good amount of goods here ready to go for Hartford. So if you look, we're starting to see some goods trickle in, and that's awesome. And you can see the impact that this is having on the town. We'll go ahead and speed things up a little bit. You can see that buildings are going up in different parts of town, but more importantly, you can see how these modifiers work, right? So there's a base population. Ooh, vehicle upgrades. We'll definitely be using those next time. There's a base population, and then there's these modifiers, and the modifiers tells you, how much your population can actually grow to. So if you look, we've added 2 modifiers in this episode. The goods adds a 30% modifier, but then also public transportation gave us a 40% modifier, right? That our resident capacity has grown quite a bit just by adding those 2 routes here, and then also adding those connections over to here. And the same thing is true with Miramar, that we've got this modifier here. And you can see what it's done. You can see, in fact, that dip is because we had to destroy some buildings, right, when we widened those roads. But you can see the influence that it had when we added the public transit. Now, the issue with Miramar, and this will be our preview for next time, is we have a 0% modifier here, right? We don't have food yet. So how's that going to go? Well, Springfield needs food too. And right over here, we have the food processing plant. And so I think next time we're going to set up a little water action, get a heavy barge line going, make the food here, barge it down here, serve Springfield, but also serve the rail line that'll run here. And that way we can start to get both modifiers going for Miramar, just like we are in Hartford. And the other big piece, notice our time, our other big piece is we're going to hit 1950 next episode, which means dieselization. And then it's really going to look like a Northwestern line, but more importantly, you're going to see a lot more efficiency on these routes. Trains are going to be able to start up faster. We're going to be able to tackle this problem because we're going to get some train masters and some GP7s in here. It's going to be nice. It's going to be good. One last thing, since we have the money, let's just go ahead and do this. Let's just go ahead and be debt free. Done. We are completely free of debt, which is a great spot to be in, and you can see our overall value is going up quite a bit now that we're debt free and we have these profitable branches. So that's it. Thank you for tuning in for episode 3. We got quite a lot done. We've got a lot more to do next time. We're getting really close to having this little corner of the map developed. And so after next episode, we're going to be looking at how do we start to develop other parts of the map too. So that's all for now. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll see you for the next episode.